This is a relatively new privilege in California. California Civil Code Section 47.1 says that a communication made by an individual without malice regarding an incident of sexual assault, harassment, or discrimination is privileged under Section 47. So in other words, if someone makes a good faith claim of sexual harassment or discrimination, they can't face liability for defamation under California law. Now, of course, Lively argues that this accurately describes her statements that form the basis of Baldoni's defamation claims. However, because Baldoni is a public figure, he already needs to allege that Lively made the defamatory statements with actual malice. He needs to allege that Lively made the statements either knowing that what she said was false or with reckless disregard as to the truth or falsity of the statement. So if he alleges that in the first amended complaint, then it's outside the scope of the sexual harassment privilege because, remember, the privilege covers statements that were made without malice. And Lively argues in her motion to dismiss that Baldoni doesn't allege actual malice in his first amended complaint. But she's wrong. Although in his first amended complaint, he doesn't use the phrase actual malice, he alleges the definition of actual malice when he says the Lively parties knew the statements were false or had serious doubts about the truth of the statements. So Baldoni has alleged actual malice as a necessary part of his overall defamation claim. And so the court should determine that California's sexual harassment claim privilege doesn't apply, at the very least at this stage, until Lively can prove that she made the statement without malice.
Hello, I just wanted to check in and give a few thoughts about Blake's motion to dismiss. I've talked briefly about it in my last video, but I do want to just talk more specifically about it in this one. So I won't be going over all the allegations. I'll just be sticking to the ones that are pertaining to actual malice and explaining how there is an extensive paper trail of Blake exhibiting actual malice, as well as Ryan Reynolds exhibiting actual malice, and he's involved in this defamation lawsuit too. So I think Justin will have no problem showing that both Blake and Ryan exhibited actual malice. So I've listened to countless lawyers discuss the varying factors involved in the California law 47.1, which basically stipulates that someone cannot file a defamation lawsuit against another person who has accused them of sexual harassment or SA if the defamatory statements in question were made in the course of a legal filing and were made without malice. Blake also tried to claim the fair reporting privilege, just like the New York Times did, because in California, for some reason, they extend that fair reporting privilege to people, I guess, individuals who make communications about illegal filing. So basically, Blake is trying to say she was within her rights to communicate with the New York Times about the legal filing because it is covered under fair reporting. And then there's also another ridiculous and extremely broad law in California that allows a person to say essentially whatever they want about another person, even defamatory lies, so long as the statements were made in the course of litigation, which is a very broad definition, especially when it comes to pre-litigation communications and things like that. So basically anything that was said within a lawsuit or even preparations to file a lawsuit. This is where things get a bit dicey. As far as Blake's arguments in her motion to dismiss are concerned, she made the defamatory statements about Justin to the New York Times months before she filed a CRD complaint, or before she ever filed her federal lawsuit. We know this because the CRD complaint was filed 24 hours before the New York Times released their hit piece. So Blake had been colluding with the New York Times for months, long before she ever filed a CRD complaint or applied for her right to sue or whatever that document was called. And this also took place long before she ever filed the federal lawsuit. And it can actually also be argued that she never really intended to actually file a lawsuit. She thought the CRD complaint and the New York Times hit piece would suffice, and really just wanted to damage Justin's reputation to rehabilitate her own on the world stage. But that all changed, and she was forced to file her laughable lawsuit when Justin's lawyer stated publicly that he will be filing one against her. He said he would sue her into oblivion. Then suddenly, we got her lawsuit filed in federal court the same exact day as Justin's lawsuit against the New York Times, which let her know Justin's team meant business. So the timing of that actually matters, and it proves she was not willing to take it to that level until she realized Justin was taking it to that level, and then she panicked and filed her lawsuit and has gotten herself into a massive can of worms. From then, she desperately tried to silence Justin's team with a gag order. She desperately tried to smear his lawsuit as an attack against her when it was really just him defending himself. She then tried to desperately protect certain information that would come out in discovery. She then tried to desperately say she didn't want Justin's lawyer deposing her. All of this paints a picture that Blake was not prepared to actually go through the process of a lawsuit, not hers or Justin's. And so you see her panicking and doing all these desperate things to try to get out of having to endure the actual proceedings of a lawsuit. And so her latest desperate act is trying to get the lawsuit dismissed under the 3 laws that I mentioned earlier. But there are loopholes and issues with each of those laws as they apply to her and her case. The biggest issue with Blake's decision to go to the New York Times at all and even file the CRD complaint is that both of those things can be tied to yet another extortion scheme. So on the one hand, she extorted Justin on the set of It Ends With Us, especially with the protections to return to work document. That was extortion, forcing him to sign this paper as it was, not allowing him to correct or edit it in any way, and basically threatening to ruin his movie if he didn't sign it. That is textbook extortion. It is undeniable. But beyond that, she actually extorted him again. He has multiple cases for extortion in this matter. So the second time she extorted him, which is a huge deal because it actually led to the lawsuits, was when she demanded that Justin publicly take the blame for her August 2024 downfall after the movie came out and the premiere took place. And she said he needed to do this or else the gloves were coming off. That is not only a threat, it is an extortionary threat because she threatened him to get him to do something. She relayed this extortionary threat plus the self-incriminating statement her husband drafted that she was demanding for Justin to release. She relayed this through an agent at WME. That is a witness. And WME is a massive talent agency in Hollywood. WME would later dump Justin because of Ari Emanuel's decision and his personal loyalty to Blake and Ryan, not due to any facts they provided or evidence. It was just personal loyalty and him acting on that instinct alone. So they dumped Justin after Blake publicized the private CRD complaint in the New York Times hit piece, which consisted of all allegations and cherry-picked text messages to paint a false narrative. So that is the second time she extorted him, and it is a massive deal. And it will be a massive help to Justin's case if he has proof of that threat, either in writing or an email, which I believe he does have an email. But if he could also get that WME agent deposed, oh my gosh, and also get discovery for their emails and communications with Blake and Ryan, it could be really huge for him because it blows a hole in Blake's entire lawsuit. It proves extortion and malice. So Blake seems to think she's covered by all of the aforementioned laws, and indeed her confidence in this notion that she is untouchable only continues to prove her extortion of Justin was highly premeditated. With these laws in mind, these legal loopholes she felt she could be protected by, it seems like she was always planning to rely on these laws to get away with defaming him. I also mentioned in a previous video that I don't think this is the first time she or her husband have extorted someone. And I also mentioned in that last video that she had also gotten a makeup artist fired with similar trumped up allegations of sexual harassment. She admitted this in 2017 during the big Me Too movement. However confident Blake may be in her allegations being protected by these laws, I think she is missing a major oversight in her unhinged schemes that may destroy her entire case and help Justin to triumph because her extortion was so transparent. So, in just a cursory bit of research I did into these laws, I found this interesting court case in an article that was discussing the litigation privilege in particular, which stated, in its 2006 decision, Flatley versus Morrow, the California Supreme Court held that the litigation privilege does not apply to pre-litigation communications that are illegal as a matter of law. In that case, the defendant, an attorney, has sent a letter to the plaintiff threatening to file a lawsuit unless the plaintiff paid a substantial settlement. The court, finding that the demand letter was extortionate, held that the litigation privilege did not protect the attorney's conduct because extortion is illegal under California law. Lo and behold, that is almost precisely what is going on here in the Justin Baldoni versus Blake Lively case. She threatened him with going to the New York Times in August 2024 unless he did what she said. He did not. She then proceeded to sue him. So would that not make her pre-litigation conduct illegal because it is extortionate? It is very possible that Blake's CRD complaint would not be covered under the litigation privilege because it was only sought out as a consequence of a failed extortionary threat. And for that matter, her lawsuit itself was merely the outcome of a failed extortionary threat from August 2024. It was not an organic move in her seeking some kind of remedy for the sexual harassment she had endured on set. Had Justin put out that statement she wanted him to put out, she would not have sued him. And in fact, we have evidence that she really didn't want to sue him, and she only sued him once she saw he sued the New York Times and he was talking about suing her publicly. That all matters. That all matters because it illustrates for us the intent behind her lawsuit. So, since extortion is illegal under California law, it should invalidate her entire lawsuit because she threatened to defame and sue him. The gloves were coming off if he did not release a statement accepting fault for her self-inflicted downfall, which had nothing to do with anything that took place on set. That matters as well. She's trying to make him responsible for something completely unrelated to on-set complaints by holding those on-set complaints over his head perpetually. The law doesn't allow people to treat other people this way. This is not going to pan out well for her. I don't know why her lawyers are deluding her or supporting her in this unhinged crusade to destroy this man's life. Furthermore, it would seem to me, if the courts are fair and if justice is going to be served, that Blake also cannot stand behind the 47.1 law that protects certain communications made about sexual harassment or assault, because in that law, it specifically stipulates that communications made with malice are not protected. And oh my fucking gosh, can we easily prove Blake and her husband were acting with malice all along? Also, Blake is calling on all of these laws to get Justin's defamation lawsuit dismissed at face value. However, the 47.1 law, as I understand it, can only be determined if Blake prevails as a defendant in the defamation lawsuit. So that means this lawsuit would have to progress to trial and be scrutinized by a jury, following which, if Blake wins, this law would only at that time grant her treble damages incurred as a result of the defamation lawsuit against her, her attorney's fees being paid, and punitive damages, which would amount to a lot. The case would still have to be heard at trial for her to be successful under that particular law, in which case I honestly don't see Blake prevailing. So I don't think Justin is sweating at all over the possibility of having to pay damages to Blake, especially if this goes to trial. Firstly, because he is reportedly not funding his legal battle. A billionaire is. So someone with pockets that deep and who was also defamed in this situation by Blake, needlessly, by the way, why did she name him? That was the stupidest thing she could have done. He did nothing wrong. She is spreading rumors, putting words into his mouth, and then lied about him being on set during the birthing scene when he wasn't. Steve Sarowitz was also defamed by Blake. He is therefore fully motivated to see her face a jury and be humiliated in a deposition and account for her lies. And I'm sure he wagered that it was worth the risk of dragging this idiot through court and putting her lies on blast for the public to see, even if they are not able to sway a jury. Justin and his team have still utterly destroyed Blake's credibility and humiliated her and her husband on the world stage. And that was certainly worth a few million in damages that they might have to pay in the end. Hopefully they won't though, because we need justice to be done in this case. Blake and Ryan need to be bankrupted. Secondly, I just do not see Blake prevailing once the evidence is presented to the jury. We haven't even seen all the evidence that Justin and his team claim to have, yet her narrative has already been utterly debunked with what they've disclosed so far, all of which I broke down in my last video and several videos before that, debunking and discrediting her every allegation. The public is overwhelmingly on Justin's side for a reason, and anyone against Justin are just your typical players, the low IQ fake feminists that are online and make feminism their identity but don't understand what it means, and then also the mainstream media, the same legacy media that we all despise, who are biased, who lie, just like the New York Times. They're on Blake's side for no other reason than she's a woman and she's the bigger celebrity. Because if they did even the smallest bit of journalism, they would see there's no way anyone should be supporting Blake. It's just not journalism anymore, it's propaganda. But the vast majority of people are kind of just over celebrities, and again, Blake represents that old Hollywood celebrity that is just self-absorbed and self-seeking and insufferable, and we can't stand her for that reason. But she's trying so hard to blame her downfall on this man, and the public is seeing through all of that. And I believe she will have the same bad fortune with any jury that is selected for this case. I believe the public's take on this case is very reflective of how a jury pool would be. So I really like Justin's chances of succeeding where a jury is concerned. The objective truth is on his side, and that cannot be denied. And the objective truth will never fail him. It's just the way the universe works. Reality and truth will always reassert itself, no matter how many smoke and mirrors and lies gaslighters like Blake and Ryan try to throw up with the help of the media to distort the truth for self-serving purposes. What they did with the New York Times was despicable, and a jury will see that. Essentially, the lawyers I've been watching have all said the facts of the matter would need to be tried first with regard to the 47.1, and this would be done by the jury, not the judge, because he is not a finder of facts. So in that case, it sounds like Justin should get his day in court, especially from a technical sense, since Justin and his team are alleging extortion in this lawsuit alongside defamation, which makes his lawsuit much more powerful and substantial than people are giving him credit for. It's not a frivolous lawsuit. It's not a frivolous lawsuit where he didn't consider certain laws by any means. And you can tell it was structured specifically with the intent of withstanding the 47.1 law and the litigation privilege, since Justin and his team are alleging that Blake both acted with malice, which strikes down the 47.1 law, and they are also alleging simultaneously that she extorted him. And this is what led to her litigation in the first place, because had he done what she demanded back in August 2024, she would not have sued him or defamed him with the help of the New York Times. She essentially was trying to force him to defame himself, even though he had positively done nothing wrong and had did everything he possibly could to accommodate her and placate her on that set. Even when she was falsely accusing him, he still appeased her. He didn't even defend himself. He could have defended himself on set, like, no, fuck you, I'm gonna fight this. He didn't. He bent over for her and took it. He just took it and took it and took it. And that still wasn't enough for her. She still needed to destroy him publicly because she had publicly destroyed herself. And that is just absurd. The law was not made to protect people like Blake Lively. And once the facts are presented at trial, I believe she will be seen once and for all for the evil, devious, narcissistic succubus she truly is. I've been talking about Blake's extortion of Justin from early on. I always knew this would be Justin's way of proving his innocence. It matters that she extorted him beyond the sexual harassment allegations. The extortion is a thing in and of itself, so it matters that she extorted him, and it matters that she had been threatening him for creative control all along, such as the dragons threat when he didn't let her have her way with the rooftop scene. Also, another threat she gave him was, you're gonna have to recast me if you don't do things my way, with regard to, I believe, filming the body scenes or something to that effect. She said you would have to do it my way say, or you're gonna have to recast me. That is another threat. So it matters that she had been threatening him long before she ever accused him of SH. And it matters that she had been overbearing with her creative demands, and there's text message proof of this with the producers discussing it long before she ever accused him of SH, because it established her ulterior motive for when she did eventually accuse him of SH. And I've pointed out countless things she did in a retaliatory light before filming ever ended. Blake's sexual harassment claims stem from creative differences and a power struggle on set. That's what it boils down to, a power struggle. This can be easily proven because her first allegation of sexual misconduct came the same day Justin reprimanded her for poor creative choices she made with her character's wardrobe that was already negatively impacting the film's public perception and would have affected the marketing down the line. And this resulted in Sony Pictures, the film's distributor, stepping in and criticizing Justin and blaming him for Blake's terrible wardrobe. So Justin had to course correct very early on in filming and effectively had to lay down the law to Blake and reclaim control over her wardrobe. This meeting was a director reprimanding an actress who was overstepping on his set. But months following that meeting, Blake tried to frame it as Justin having been inappropriate with her in her trailer, criticizing her appearance, which according to her, he wasn't allowed to do apparently, yet she is the lead actress in his film, and cinema is a visual medium, so physical appearance is important. And in fact, it is why an actress is cast in the first place. I will never forget hearing the story about Ryan Gosling being fired from being the father in The Lovely Bones because his creative vision for that character was to gain 40 pounds to look like a suburban dad, I guess. And the director saw him and said, "No, this is not what I had in mind. You're fired." Did Ryan Gosling run and create a sexual harassment lawsuit over that? No, because film is a visual medium. You have to meet physical requirements. So having your physical appearance criticized or picked apart or scrutinized, it comes with the territory of being an actress, especially a lead actress. I don't think any courtroom would allow Blake to say differently. Blake was chosen because she fit the director's vision for the character originally and the character's physical description. That's why they didn't cast a black woman or someone who was 400 pounds. And of course, her appearance mattered on this set because she decided to hijack control of the character's appearance from the director through her wardrobe. So he has every right to criticize her creative choices since they began to negatively impact the film's public perception. I can see if he just walked up to her and criticized her appearance just for the hell of it and she hadn't done anything to her character's wardrobe, that would be a different story. But the fact that she hijacked her wardrobe and then ruined it means she has no grounds for calling this conversation sexual harassment when he was legitimately criticizing creative choices she had made. And you know what would be so crazy is if Justin recorded that conversation, because going into that conversation he said he was terrified of saying the wrong thing. And I think he and Jamie Heath were kind of on guard ever since she accused him of fat shaming in the beginning. I think he knew what kind of game they were playing right off the bat, and I think he put in protections for himself, which is why he has so much evidence. He saw the monster he was dealing with from the beginning. So Justin is a lot more intelligent than people are giving him credit for, and it would be so crazy if he actually recorded this conversation. So anyway, Blake later made this meeting a form of sexual harassment. The way she is twisting the definition of sexual harassment to serve her own purposes is just diabolical. And a jury will understand right off the bat the relentless gaslighting Blake has employed to victimize herself at every turn, when truthfully, from day one, she was the problem on set. And there is evidence of Justin and his producers discussing this fact and discussing her hijacking the film long before SH ever came into question. And Blake fabricating allegations of sexual harassment truly ramped up after May 16th. Her reckless disregard for the truth is evident in that first instance of them accusing him of fat shaming her, because they knew a lift scene was included in the script, and her and Ryan later demanded that Justin remove the lift scene, and that was after Ryan had badly berated Justin. In her CRD complaint and lawsuit, they lied about the scene ever having existed to bolster her false claims that he asked about her weight just because he was being sexist or whatever. So they had to lie about the scene's very very existence to make her claims of fat shaming more believable, and this shows a reckless disregard for the truth, and it set the precedent for how they will be dealing with Justin. They just are lying. They're just lying relentlessly and mischaracterizing everything. So in reality, where the rest of us reside, the scene was in the script. Justin had also lifted her up onto a counter during another scene in the movie. So even if that scene wasn't in the script, he still lifted her in the movie. So the question was still valid as it pertained to him having to lift her and her complaining about being overweight the entire time, by the way. That's something that goes against her argument that he fat shamed her. The fact that he has tons of text messages of her getting down on her own weight. So it's just hilarious. But it's important to distinguish that because actual malice can be seen very early on, even in that first fat shaming allegation, because they lied from the beginning about whether or not the scene ever existed, while knowing for a fact that it did. We have a reckless disregard for the truth, and you lie with actual malice, meaning you knew you were lying. That is the standard that needs to be upheld. Moving on, the fact that Blake willfully filmed sex scenes with her harasser after drafting a document to pretend he made her so uncomfortable on set that she needed protections directly contradicts the idea that she felt harassed or uncomfortable with him at all. Another thing that directly erodes the core of her claim that she needed protections on set is the fact that when she was given a protection that she requested with regard to the sex scenes, that being a body double, she voluntarily declined to utilize that protection. This is huge. This will vividly illustrate for a jury that the protections she requested in that document were never really necessary because she forewent the most critical protection and chose to film sex scenes with her harasser. That is so damning. If she could forego any of these protections at will, then that shows she lied about needing them in the first place. This argument about her willfully disregarding the body double she asked for and which was granted to her needs to be heavily emphasized to the jury because it goes at the heart of her claim that she needed protections to continue filming. We also have 3 different instances of Blake using the tactics that she used against Justin and Jamie in the past. The first one was her admittedly poisoning the cast of Gossip Girl against Penn Badgley simply because she disliked him. She also admitted to lying about him to achieve this effect, and then later said she was wrong about the way she was vilifying him to the other cast members. This is what she did to Justin and Jamie with the cast of It Ends With Us, who are otherwise all on record discussing how much they love Justin and how safe and comfortable the set was. Their opinions, which predate Blake's manipulation of them during the press tour, will weigh heavily in this matter, especially if through discovery they're able to determine that Blake was poisoning the minds of the cast members against Justin, basically defaming him to those individual people. The next example from Blake's past that applies to this case is Blake admitting to using claims of sexual harassment in the past to get a makeup artist fired, and even using similar unproven allegations against Justin that she used against this man in the past, saying Justin was secretly filming her, for which she has provided 0 evidence. Also using like unfalsifiable claims, saying he was sexually harassing her by applying her lipstick with his finger, when there are clips of other makeup artists doing this because it seems like a common application method. So she's able to take anything and twist it into sexual harassment when she wants to demonize somebody. She can take the most innocuous thing and say it's sexual harassment. It's never someone grabbing her ass or grabbing her boob or constantly asking her to go on a date or, this or that. It's always some weird thing that she is taking and twisting the life out of to make it fit sexual harassment, such as Justin having a meeting with her in her trailer, or such as Justin simply acting as Ryle with her and being romantic. She somehow found a way to accuse him of sexual harassment while filming a scene as Ryle and being romantic because his character required it. She's twisting even that into sexual harassment. This man doing his job is just bizarre. Like, what is wrong with her? She is completely deranged. The situation with the makeup artist, him applying her lipstick with his finger, him secretly recording her, something that can't be proven. It's also no way to prove that he was being sexually gratified by applying her lipstick with his finger. The third thing was like him saying inappropriate things. But as we all know, Blake can twist the fuck out of anything that was said and make it sexual harassment. She literally took Justin talking about him being sexually abused used in the past and twisted it into him sexually harassing her. That's how demented she is. She literally took this man offering her a wellness coach to help her get better when she was ill and twisted it into him fat shaming her. She is psychotic. She doesn't live in reality. And because of the way she is mischaracterized so much with regard to this case against Justin and Jamie, I have no doubt in my mind the makeup artist she accused was also innocent. He probably just got on her bad side with creative differences with regard to her appearance in the movie she was filming, and she just wanted to punish him, just like she did those ADs on set. But because they were women, she couldn't get away with accusing them of sexual harassment, because you best believe if those two ADs were men, she would have also accused them of sexual harassment. And I bet any amount of money it was the same case with this makeup artist. It would be so smart of Justin and his lawyers to track down who this makeup artist was. They need to talk to their connects in Hollywood, go through this bitch's IMDb filmography, and literally contact every director and set and production company and ask which one she got the makeup artist fired on, track down that makeup artist, look into the allegations, look into seeing if she got any more production sets to sign any sort of similar documents, and destroy her with this precedent of extortion and lies. And finally, the third example from Blake's past that is relevant to this case is her confessions in that Forbes interview. She admits to knowingly and in a calculated, devious manner, doing all she can to dupe the people she signs on to work with, presenting herself as one thing when auditioning for the role, and then coming out and vying for authorship and creative control after she is hired, when she knows it would be difficult to recast her. This is, in and of itself, a form of extortion that she has admitted to on camera, because it is premeditated entrapment with the use of deceit to coerce what she wanted from people that she was working with, and more specifically, forcing those people into a predicament where they could not deny what she wanted without jeopardizing their entire productions. This is Blake admitting to going into film contracts with ulterior motives of extortion. This goes directly to the heart of not only Justin's case for extortion and defamation, but it also proves from the very beginning she was acting with actual malice when she made those SH accusations, because she was further trying to put the production in a position where it could not deny her demands, with the motive of gaining full creative control in mind. It's just that in this case, her entrapment of this particular film set also involved baseless allegations of sexual harassment, because in a post-Me Too society, they were the most effective in achieving her ends. And yes, this is a Machiavellian scheme. What the fuck else is it? That's exactly what it is. It is completely premeditated. She has a precedent of doing similar things. She has admitted to it. That's exactly what it is. So her lawyers trying to pretend that it's unbelievable that Justin is accusing her of a Machiavellian scheme is so laughable, because she has admitted on camera to manipulating people to get what she wants. SH accusations were the perfect vehicle for her to achieve her ends on this particular set, and this cannot be denied. And she was going for the gold on this set. She wanted that PGA producer credit, so she went crazy with allegations on this set and extortion schemes and outright threats. She was drunk on the power she was usurping from Justin. This explains why she never formally filed HR complaints. And remember, she even admits she willfully forewent that formal process of HR complaints in her protections to return to work document. She states it at the onset of that document. This is in lieu of a formal HR process, so we can all get back to filming. The problem is, formal HR complaints would have led to an investigation that would have been far more fair to Justin, because it would have been conducted by a third party and not by Blake and her sinister lawyers, who had a vested interest in serving only her ends. She also specifically included provisions for creative choices in that 17 provisions list. And she even tried to take control of previously filmed scenes of another actress, thereby robbing that actress of her agency and her right to use her own scenes. That was all in the 17 provisions list. These were provisions meant to grant her creative control over the film, couched deceptively in provisions to protect her from a pretend sexual harasser. And this comes full circle with her trying to usurp creative control early on before she ever accused him of sexual harassment. So because her provisions involved so many stipulations for creative control, those two things cannot be divorced. The sexual harassment allegations cannot be divorced from her trying to hijack the film. Furthermore, extortion and malice can also be proven when Blake told Wayfarer that there was no more goodwill between them because they would not draft a letter of support for her to get a PGA producer credit. This is proof of her acting with actual malice throughout this entire situation. And this is yet another form of extortion. This is like the third major extortion that she subjected Justin and his company to. And it can easily be proven with the paper trail of her many threats and coercions, but also with eyewitness testimony to her countless threats, including the executives and the agents of Sony Pictures and WME. Her telling Justin and his company that there was no more goodwill between them after they refused to write her that letter for a PGA producer credit came through, I believe, WME or Sony. I'm just not sure right now, but that is yet another witness to her threats and coercion. And ultimately, Justin and his company caved and did write the letter, but Jamie Heath wrote an email to his company saying, "This is extortion by Blake and we are writing this under duress." Finally, the satire of Justin Baldoni in Deadpool versus Wolverine, I think, will come back to bite both Blake and Ryan in the ass in this lawsuit because it very explicitly and graphically and in no uncertain terms illustrates their malice in a visual medium that was mass marketed and garnered over $1 billion at the box office. This Deadpool satire viciously defamed Justin and in a way that was in accordance with the allegations Blake had lobbed against him. So this satire cannot be divorced from the defamation lawsuit, in my opinion, and it can't just be protected as free speech because Ryan specifically chose to provide a megaphone to the false allegations leveled against Justin. This is defamation, just like his sexual predator comment. This satire is also evidence of malice. And furthermore, Blake chose to twist the knife of this Deadpool defamation by adding a thank you to Gordon Reynolds in the credits of It Ends With Us, which was a direct reference to the Nicepool character from the movie, and she did this to further mock and humiliate Justin. By the way, the satire ends with Blake Lively's character in the movie violently killing Justin Baldoni's character. It doesn't get any clearer than that. Their malice towards and hatred of this man. That was so graphic and evil. And they did that together. They are sick and psychotic. The couple that keep crying sexual predator and sexual harassment, this is the same couple where they made their 7-year-old daughter say that disgusting line about taking somebody's dick out of Deadpool's mouth. That is them making a child make a very explicit sexual reference. As we know, children are not old enough to consent to sex or anything regarding sex, but this is them forcing their daughter to make this disgusting sexual reference. And then you also have the woman who's crying about SH talking to Justin about her asshole and suppositories. You also have Ryan Reynolds talking to Justin about his taint. You also have Blake Lively in another movie asking a male co-star to grab his nuts and putting him in a position where he couldn't say no. It was his first movie, so he would not have wanted to say no to an actor as big as Blake. So she's abusing a power imbalance because she was not only the star of that movie, but she was also the bigger star in Hollywood. And she put him in a position where he had to say yes so she could grab his nuts. Then there's also like Blake made her son a cake with boobs. The couple that keep crying sexual predator and sexual harasser are the only predatory, harassing, sexually perverse, disgusting human beings I see here. The smearing of Justin started early on, long before he ever hired Crisis PR to deal with the PR crisis caused by Blake when she badly botched the marketing of the film, both with her tone-deaf, opportunistic idiocy, but also with forcibly marginalizing Justin from the other cast members, which was yet another way she was trying to subtly denigrate him. She was finding ways to defame him maliciously all along. That is so evident. Like her removing him from the poster of his own movie. That is a form of defamation. And even removing his name on the cover as the lead actor and his film by credit as the director, stripping him of these basic rights as a director because she wanted the public to think there was something wrong with him. She tried to demean him in every way she could, and these actions all prove she was acting with malice from the beginning.